When did this become the face of comedy? I've been asking myself this question quite a lot lately. As more and more streaming services are popping up and growing their content library, it is becoming increasingly difficult to pick and choose the ones that are going to consistently bring quality entertainment to the table. But if you're a comedy nerd, there really aren't that many options, and this has always been the case. It's just that now, instead of HBO, Netflix is the king. But how did this come to pass? How did the largest premium cable network lose its crown? If you've seen any of my previous videos, you'd know that at about this point, I usually make 3 more introductions setting up some kind of context and then summarize the point in a sentence before I lament over something lost and beautiful. And then the black screen with the titles rolls in before I'm able to make my point clear. The end. But I don't have that time right now because I'm getting ready to watch the new season of Stranger Things, and people have been trying to spoil it for me for weeks, so I'm just going to fast forward through the main points. 70s and early 80s. Stand-up comedians, especially those who challenge the establishment and include themes about minorities, becoming increasingly popular, like George Carlin and Richard Pryor. Oh, and this guy who sexually assaulted 60 women was also quite famous. Comedy clubs all over America pop up in every major city and give rise to a new wave of young talent like Whoopi Goldberg and Eddie Murphy. Late 80s. Already established stars like Robin Williams make the transition to primetime television and big-budget Hollywood movies, further cementing the star power of comedians. His specials are also some of the very first to get picked up by home box office, a rising new channel which in the 80s managed to become a nationwide powerhouse, especially after the writer's strike in 1989, when all other networks were starving for content. Late 90s. The comedy bubble bursts. There's too many goddamn comedians everywhere, and a lot of them are bad. As a result, most networks drop their stand-up related programming, but few niche channels fill the gap, such as Comedy Central, which by the way was part of the HBO family. The beginning of the new century. HBO remains as the de facto authority on stand-up comedy. Anyone who is anyone in the industry, like Chris Rock, is selling their specials to the biggest fish in the pond, while the newcomers like Gabriel Iglesias and Pablo Francisco can only have 30 minutes on Comedy Central. And let's pause for a second. To be completely honest with you, this particular segment was supposed to be read like super fast, but I noticed that my pronunciation was not stellar, let's put it that way. And I had to re-record everything, and by everything I mean everything. So without further ado, let's continue on with our scheduled programming, shall we? HBO was at a point where they had monopoly over comedy specials. If you wanted to watch the latest and greatest, they were the place to go to, unless you want to buy the VHS or DVD a few months later.
Insert joke about VHS tapes said in a patronizing tone to imaginary children.
Streaming services weren't really a factor up until the beginning of this decade, and cable networks didn't really need to concern themselves with maintaining a content library in the same way they have to do right now with on-demand platforms being everywhere. Also, by the time Netflix signed up their first comedy special with Bill Burr, which aired back in 2012, HBO had already undergone a tonal shift. They became a network really good at producing serialized drama, as evidenced by The Sopranos and The Wire. And in 2011, the first season of Game of Thrones aired. So HBO slowly pulled away from stand-up comedy. They had already sold their share in Comedy Central to Viacom in 2003, and according to the president of programming, Casey Bloys, in 2017 comedy specials accounted for only 1% of the views across all of their digital platforms. Now, of course HBO admits defeat at this point, but I think the root cause doesn't lie with them, but rather with Netflix and how proactively the streaming juggernaut took over. Oh, and YouTube, but I'll get to that in a moment. Since 2012, the company that best calls with chill has produced close to 200 specials, which is insane. That's only 7 freaking years. And for some comedians, Netflix reportedly outbeat HBO, Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle to name a few. And it doesn't end with that. It's not only English-speaking comedians that get to bask in the spotlight, but also French, Brazilian, Mexican, Indian, and even Middle Eastern. I think what Netflix are trying to achieve is to make stand-up comedy a global phenomenon, and that is quite an impossible venture. If it was 2010, But ever since YouTube became popular, illegal recordings of comedy shows keep popping up on the internet and allow the rest of the world to get a glimpse of what Britain and their former colonies have been able to experience for years. YouTube inadvertently paved the way for a cultural enlightenment. Nowadays, comedy clubs are popping up all over the world the same way they did during the 80s in America. Even in my hometown Sofia, which is located in a country most foreigners struggle to find on a map, big-time British comedians such as Ed Izzard, Jimmy Carr and Dylan Moran had amazing shows. And in just a few days, Louis C.K. is coming with his latest material. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but it's me from the future again, and I want to add just a few things before I actually wrap this video up. It was supposed to be out on July the 23rd, when Louis C.K. was actually here in Bulgaria, but between being hit by a bus, going really sick, and quitting my job and getting another one, I didn't really have much time to actually finish it up. So, I do apologize for that. I've been trying really hard to please the gods of the internet and learn some After Effects so I can actually make better videos, so please bear with me, and if you like this video, please subscribe, there's gonna be more like it. Also, Daniel Sloss, one of my personal favorites, who had some of the most thought-provoking specials on Netflix, was in Bulgaria in a comedy club just 50 minutes away from home. HBO dropped the ball, yes, but I find it hard to believe their executives underestimate the appeal that stand-up comedy is funneling towards Netflix. Maybe for now they can't really compete with the crazy money the Red Giant is throwing at performers. Maybe they're just waiting for the bubble to burst again. Or they're planning something bigger in years to come. But if there is one thing I'm absolutely sure of, it is that comedy isn't going anywhere. We need it more and more with each passing day, and unless the internet stops, us viewers will always be able to get our fix, no matter who is sitting on the throne.